So I'm very grateful to talk about the need for vaccine and all the protocols for our health and safety. So because of my decades living in New York and working internationally as I have in music, I've been friended by and friends of many, many people. And sadly, in my communities, dozens upon dozens of people have died from COVID. Many have died from COVID, and we'll never know that they died from COVID because they had other comorbidities that they were living with: hypertension, diabetes, obesity, other issues, and they just dropped dead. Young people even. A physical trainer in his 40s, a Broadway star, people of every race, every ethnicity. Yeah, I've lost a lot of friends. So I don't want to lose any more. I'm doubly vaccinated. I got vaccine several months ago. It's given me a sense of comfort and a sense of confidence when I go out. I performed a couple times lately, and I urge you strongly to do everything within your power to protect yourself and your families, to not contract this terrible disease. If you are exposed to COVID-19 or COVID-20 or COVID-21 or whatever happens next, and you have been vaccinated, it will not kill you. The disease will not kill you. It will not put you in ICU. What a gift that is to us to be able to be alive at a time when we can say that. So by all means, please listen to what our community is asking you to do. Performing artists like myself, we want to get out performing again, and we need you to come out safely. Have a great time. God bless, stay well, and thank you for listening to my support of this important effort.
Thank you, each one of you. Today is February 19th, 2021, and we are here because Mr. Khari Joyner is going to be playing shortly. He's a fine cellist. I want him to tell us a bit about himself, then introduce some of the guests that will be playing with you. Everyone, welcome to our third concert in the African Caribbean Fest 2021. We are so appreciative, and you've been supporting us for years. Some of you, you were there when I was 17, and now that I'm a little bit older or younger or something, you're still there. And so we really appreciate you. Keep showing up because maybe you like the students. Certainly, you have seen a lot of them graduate. So, welcome. Sit back, enjoy yourself, enjoy this interview with these fine artists that will be playing for you this afternoon. I'd like to introduce Khari Joyner, our guest artist for this concert series. It's a fine cellist, Mr. Joyner. We're so glad to see you this afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for joining this afternoon's concert. It's my pleasure to be a guest artist with the Javasia Symphony, and always a pleasure having been able to work with Mrs. Patrice Floyd and the exceptional young musicians who are all part of the Javasia Arts Conservatory and ensembles. My first time actually going to Tallahassee with Javasia was last year in 2020 in February, which I had a wonderful time being able to serve as a mentor and also guest musician playing with the symphony and all the musicians. And so it's great to be able to return to that and welcome all today. So as Mrs. Floyd said, my name is Khari Joyner. I currently live in New York City in Queens. I've been playing the cello now for about 20 years, 21 years. I started when I was 8 years old, actually, in Atlanta, Georgia. Was actually began playing in the Suzuki method. It was inspired by my older brothers, Amir and Jaron. Actually, Amir's on this call today as a violinist, and really became just very enthralled with the cello, just the way it sounds, the huge range it has, and that was kind of one of the biggest sort of I think impacts that it made on me and growing up, and also having played in various ensembles and youth orchestras and having the opportunity to study with wonderful teachers and instructors at music festivals and summer camps when I was younger was a real highlight. And then I actually was able to study with other great teachers and musicians at the Juilliard School, which is where I did my musical training in undergraduate and graduate degrees, just having received my doctorate from there in musical arts. And I've been doing a lot of teaching and performing abroad and also nationally here in the USA. It's been really a pleasure to meet always and teach a lot of young musicians and inspire and mentor young musicians, especially musicians of color, which I think is a great way that also the relationship with Javasia Arts and what they're doing is really impactful and meaningful to me. So it's always a wonderful thing, and I'm really always privileged to be able to give back to a lot of my younger colleagues and musicians, and seeing them grow and inspire. And actually tonight we'll be hearing one of their works, Kenneth Hill's, which is going to be on the program that I'm presenting. So it's a program of mostly cello works, and then some that'll actually be also chamber works. The piece that Kenneth has written is a piano sextet. So it's for piano, two violins, viola, cello, and double bass. And it's a really wonderful work. It actually is, I think, very lyrical, very melodic. There's a lot of wonderful ebbs and flows in the phrases, and it has a very majestic feel to it also. And I actually was talking with Kenneth, as he was working on the piece, and we were going back and forth just through a lot of correspondence about, tempos for the piece and what the piece meant to him. And I really think it just really embodies what he's been able to accomplish, and also just as a young musician and string player, it really shows through the piece. So I think you'll really enjoy that. It's actually last on the program, and the wonderful musicians that'll be performing that are also here on this call. So the violinists are Amir Joyner, my brother, and Mariana Green, as well as Kyle Dixon, who's playing viola. And then for double bass, Portia Lundy Dunkley, and then Joe Williams on piano. And then the other works on the program are a combination of works really spanning multiple centuries, and really from a lot of different composers whom I admire and have always, loved playing their works. We'll hear a piece by Coleridge Taylor Perkinson from his Black Folk Song Suite for solo cello in the 1970s, which I really enjoy playing, and is always a moving work. We'll also be hearing a piece from Dvorak, two separate Dvorak works, one from his cello concerto, one of my favorite works, one of the movements from that, as well as a movement from his F minor piano trio. And then we'll be hearing another work by Prokofiev, and then a work by Zoltan Kodály, which is a sort of fun, sort of short rondo for cello and piano. So I hope you really enjoy this program. And I'm going to turn over to Mrs. Floyd, who will introduce the other musicians that you'll be hearing from that are joining me as guest artists on this program.
Well, I'd like to welcome everyone. And while, we had a conversation in Tallahassee last February, and my young colleagues in classical music took me to task about some ideas that they thought that I should implement so far as fulfilling the dream of having an international symphony of Black musicians that will travel to all the places that perhaps that I have played, and some of the places that my son, the Matt violinist, has played, and just introduce ourselves to the world. We know that there are many platforms, but we thought that what we would initially do is put together the key musicians from the orchestra and let them play together. And it just so happens that Kenneth wrote a piece, and it's a sextet. We have from this soon-to-be symphony that we're working on funding for 6 of the wonderful musicians from the proposed ensemble by Faith. And so we have Mariana Greenhill. Just tell us a little bit about your background and what you're doing now in your school, et cetera. We're so proud of you.
My name is Mariana Greenhill. I'm a violinist. I started playing the violin at the age of 4-ish, maybe 3.5, 4 years old. I am born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts, and I went to the Walnut Hill School for the Performing Arts in Natick, Mass. And then I went to Juilliard and fulfilled my bachelor's and my master's degree, and then headed down the street a ways to Mannes College of Music for my artist diploma. Then returned to Boston, started teaching, and fell in love with it. I didn't actually think that I would ever be a teacher, but I actually fell in love with it, fell in love with the students. And so I started teaching ages 6 through high school and beyond. And then after that, I began, with the help of my sister, I started a program called 4 Strings Academy. And that's now in its 15th year of being a program. And although she's no longer with us, we just keep on going strong. And so it's a summer institute where actually we've had some of Mrs. Floyd's students attend, and that was such a pleasure to be able to cross the country, essentially, and host some of the students. And my regular job is I work for Boston Arts Academy. I'm the strings coordinator and teacher and facilitator, and we are working on some works from Bridgerton, and we are, because, we have to keep it lively, and the songs that the students know have been bridged, thank goodness, with classical instruments. So we're just doing a combination of that, and also so we're also working on spring and summer from Max Richter's interpretation. So there's always something new in the teaching of our students.
And you work with Sphinx Symphony.
Yes, I have worked with Sphinx Symphony, and I also previously was the concertmaster of Soulful Symphony.
Wonderful,
as well.
Wonderful organization. Thank you
Yes.
so much. We're privileged to have
you.
Mr. Joyner, Mr. Joyner, the older Joyner. I say your name incorrectly. Please correct me.
No, it's Amir.
Amir, just like, okay.
Yeah, no.
Yes, sir. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so as Khari mentioned earlier, Miss Floyd, I'm Khari's older brother. I play the violin. I started when I was about 5 years old at the Peabody Preparatory Division in Baltimore. I'm originally from Baltimore. Had lots of opportunities throughout my career to travel abroad and just do a lot of performing. I've been involved with a number of different organizations, a number of different orchestras, from Verbier Festival to Grant Park Festival, the New World Symphony down in Florida. And I'm currently just finished up my DMA last year, so I was a part of the first virtual commencement ceremony at the University of Maryland down in College Park in Maryland. And I'm currently actually teaching back at the preparatory division at Peabody. So in a way, it's kind of just been almost like one big coming all the way around, coming full circle for me in a lot of ways. So I'm doing a lot of teaching nowadays, and I've had a lot of opportunity just to meet a lot of great, wonderful musicians throughout my life, especially musicians of color, just with different organizations like the Sphinx organization, Color Music, Gateway Music Festival, and Javakia, that I'm so glad to be a part of again, as I was last year with a number of my colleagues. So I'm glad to be here and be back and to see that everyone's well.
Well, thank you. So, Mr. Kyle, would you? We're honored to have you. You're in the Chicago area, is that correct?
That is correct. And I'm honored to be. I'm originally from Detroit, though, so I've been in Chicago for about 7 years now. I was like an original Sphinx baby, like downtown Detroit. They used to pay for my violin lessons. I actually got a fairly late start on the violin, actually. I didn't start until I was 13. And at that point, I didn't know if I wanted to be a violist or a pianist or a choir teacher. But eventually I landed on violin because that was the instrument that I could play with all of my friends. I mean, I loved piano, but I was forced to play by myself, and that wasn't going to do. So I ended up settling on violin, and that just sort of became my voice. And so I went to school for music education and violin performance, and found my way to Chicago, where I pursued my master's in violin performance with Olga Collar, who was a phenomenal teacher. She was the reason why I wanted to go to Chicago to work with her specifically, because I've always been fascinated with teaching. And there's so many great artists, so few great teachers. And so she was a real influence on my own teaching style since then. But after graduating, I did a lot of freelancing in the city. I did a lot of recording work. I've worked with artists like Avant and PJ Morton, Jesse J, John Legend, Chance the Rapper here recently. And I played in a bunch of orchestras in the area. I was also in the Grant Park fellowship that Amir was in. I was a Project Inclusion Fellow in violin for the Chicago Sinfonietta. Now I'm a conductor. I'm the music director of the South Loop Symphony Orchestra and the assistant conductor of the new Southside Youth Symphony Orchestra. So yeah, I had to go back to school for that. So I'm at Northwestern now, graduating this year, prayers up. And in the meantime, I still play tons of chamber music. I have a quartet Decomposed. We try to stay really busy. I'm so happy to be here with all of you. I just want to get back down to you guys as soon as possible, as soon as this pandemic stuff is over.
Kenneth Hills is a wonderful young man. This is a child that you want to raise. He listens to you. He's opinionated, but at the end, he's going to obey his parents. I really believe that one of the reasons why he's so successful, he's respected his parents as long as I have known him. And that's hard for children to do, but he has respected them. He's 19 years old. And so Kenneth, your engineering major, he started studying violin with me, began studying violin with me in the 6th grade. And at 12, I think you were 12, 13. Now you're 19.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
That's about right. So Kenneth, tell us about your engineering composition violinist life.
Oh, well, it's quite fun. But so I started violin around middle school. And the reason I started off was because actually the way I started violin was because I was online and there was this game where you could take little sound bites of music and put them together to basically make a song. And so you had a couple instruments like violin, piano, bass, and a couple others. And I was like, one day I want to make music just like that. And so that's why I started picking up the violin. And I also started piano a little bit, but not, as serious with that one as I was with violin. And nowadays, I'm an engineering major and an econ major too. And so it's kind of difficult juggling all these things at once, but it's just I'm getting through it.
How many pieces have you written? AP, by the way, advanced placement music theory was life-changing for Kenneth.
It was, because it really, I saw these music I was playing like in high school with Miss Floyd, with TYO, and then really seeing how it all comes together. That was the best part for me, going through music theory. And in terms of pieces I've written, it's a lot. I've written a lot of them. And like, especially when I was in music theory, they required us to do a composition every 9 weeks. And I would just be making things in between that. And I didn't even have a choice of which ones I wanted to submit just by how many I make. And even with engineering now, see, it's a little tough. And I use that to funnel my emotions and stuff to get to composing. So that's how I deal with all that.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow, that's one of the things that in my reading about Albert Einstein, whenever he was having trouble or having difficulty with an experiment or trying to figure out an equation, he would play either the violin or the piano, and that stir his creativity. And as you know, as I've said many times, one of the mysteries about his life was his love for Marian Anderson, the great soprano, and how he would, when she would come to sing for the Philadelphia Orchestra, because of segregation, she had no place to live, and she would stay with Albert Einstein. Isn't that amazing?
Mm-hmm. And the fun thing about that too is the room where the piano is right over there. So, and this is the room I do all my studying in. So, like in class or doing homework assignments, I'll just if I'm having trouble, just walk over to the piano a little bit and do that.
Wow. Tonight, we'd like you to consider giving $100 towards the efforts of the artist series that we are presenting this season. You may go to javacyarts.com, click the donate button right up top, and invest in the work that we're doing. This season, we are presenting the top Black classical musicians in the country. This is the third concert in our series. Thank you in advance for giving. Before we leave today, could you tell me, I'm going to ask Miss Greenhill, give me the short version of where we are, Black musicians are, professional artists in classical music. Where are we with this glass ceiling of professional orchestras around the United States?
I think that we actually are creating the ceiling in some ways, because we as a people have been doing this since the beginning of time. David from the Bible times was playing the harp, and we have like many witnesses of many people even being brought to Europe to learn classical instruments and then come back over to this country and be in on the market, essentially in slavery, and be sold for higher prices because of the fact that we could play instruments. There's a rich history of people of color playing, Black people playing classical instruments for many years, and I mean, I've even heard, you know, Kelly Hall Tompkins is now doing a series about Black males specifically that played the violin and learned how to play the violin. So like there's much study that's happening now that I'm very grateful for. So I think in terms of the glass ceiling and what we are able to do, we've been able to do anything that we wanted to do since, I don't know, we built the pyramids, I guess. And I feel like in orchestras, we're just as well trained. I heard a comment recently that there are not as many people who are interested or who are not as trained as well. I think that we are definitely a presence that is being felt, especially now. The glass ceiling is opening more and more. I also do think, and I want to respect the classical orchestra. I think that the classical orchestra in and of itself is a fantastic genre of music. But I also want to respect the fact that there's so many other genres. For instance, Kyle is in a quartet chamber music group. They're teachers. We're doing so many things that it's not just about the classical orchestra. The Sphinx Symphony, which all of us are babies in, or babies of in some way, shape, or form. We get together every year, and it's like family reunion time. And I mean, it's really a huge party, and everybody gets together, and it is really a huge family reunion of now 20 years strong, or 22 years strong. I just think that the ceiling is as big as we want to make it, or we can crack it when we want to, because we have our own orchestras. We have created what the world says we can't do. And I mean, I know, for instance, the person who just joined us, Miss Portia, is facilitating an orchestra where she is. So there's just it's limitless. I think I'd like to think about it that way.
Khari, what's your take on what's taken so long for people for symphonies to realize that they're struggling financially, and now all have become charities because they are not inclusive?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of what Mariana said, I completely agree with, and I think even that direct question about what's taking long, I think a lot of it just I think has to do with, number one, the model that is sort of steeped in a tradition that essentially is kind of very extremely resistant to want to change just in general, and to anything that sort of is seemingly a threat, which in their mind is anything that's not the same, model of kind of one monolithic kind of blueprint of what orchestra looks like. So in other words, any type of diversification or colorization, so to speak, would be for them a threat, and for them kind of something that's kind of a novel and not, and one of the reasons why a lot of those things just, are not, and in the same way what's modeled in other industries, not even just classical music. I mean, even academia and the STEM fields, certainly, in many other fields as well. When you look at, business models and whatnot from Fortune 500 companies. So I think that kind of resistance is one of the reasons why, orchestras, but, at the same time, I think the ones that are seeing that, their budget and have kind of a new sweeping direction from administration, new management, I think a lot of, some orchestras are at least actively looking to see how they can, use that model to their advantage and realize that they actually would bring in a much greater community, especially since a lot of times they're serving the communities that are predominantly not white or, predominantly of color, that they need to be able to reach out in that way. And so it only would make sense for them for financial reasons, but also just to be able to have the exposure for having young people see, I think for many of us on the call, is like the idea of when we were younger, wanting to see people that look like us was extremely important. And so I think that even that having that power for exposure and just having visibility, I think is the really key word that a lot of orchestras need to realize in that way.
Can I jump in on top of what Mr. Joyner just said real quick? I think also it's about changing the narrative of like who we're playing, right? Like instead of saying Chevalier is the Black Mozart, just saying his name and validating who he is. And instead of saying, Coleridge Taylor Perkins is, like the Black Mahler, just give him credit for what he did, and just saying the names and respecting the artists, and and actually performing the artists that represent the people that are in the community is going to be a game changer, I think. And I think the orchestras are starting to realize that if they don't represent what's in the community, then and there's a hunger to hear the voices now for the first time, really, that's really going to break the ceiling.
I think you're still muted. Oh, there you go.
God bless me. Portia Dunkley, Portia Lundy Dunkley. It is so nice to see you. Our bassist for the sextet. Mr. Hills is on, the composer of the piece that you're playing, a young kid, Kenneth. He's 19 years old. You remember Kenneth? He played in the first violin section. They're liking your piece. Tell us a little. That question. Tell us a little bit about yourself, right quick, Portia.
Hello, everybody. It's so good to see every one of you guys, first of all, and so proud of you, Ms. Floyd, Patrice, for everything that you're doing and how you're encouraging these young voices to really soar. And I'm just really happy. Thank you, Khari, for asking me to be a part of this. And, congratulations, Kenneth, on such an amazing accomplishment. I write like little kids songs for my kids in my program, and it's hard enough. So, so just a little bit about me. I am a Miami native. I play bass. I studied bass at Florida State. Go Seminoles. I actually got my bachelor in performance. I started in performance, but then I did my master's in arts administration. After I finished at Florida State, I moved back to I was taught for a while. I taught for a few years, about maybe 5 or 6 years, and moved to Miami in 2015 and worked for a nonprofit after-school program called Miami Music Project. I worked there for a while as a site director for their Liberty City program. And after working there for about 2 years, started my own program called Teeny Violini. It's a mobile music education program for preschoolers. And so I basically take music to different preschools. I do a music program with a method that I created to teach them how to play music using shapes and colors, and introduce them to music through rhythm and using the violin, even though I am a bass player, And so currently I'm working on a project. It's a night grant Night Challenge Grant project called Music of the Unsung America, spotlighting Black composers in the shadows of history. And, you know, just along the, just very much in tune to what we're talking about in this whole, you know, this gathering right now. I was inspired to write a grant for the project based on my own and probably all of our experiences as young Black musicians, not really, or finding out late in our career or discovering late in our career, just that there are Black composers, there are, you know, classical composers and American classical composers in the classical arts genre that that we had never been exposed to. And so, you know, for the long, and it's so funny, I have a book called The Black Mozart. And I never read it because I was just like, the Black Mozart, what is this? Who wrote this book? You know, it's a child's book. It's supposed to be a children's book. And I never read it. I had it for like maybe about 4 years. And I was like, oh, I'll read it. I'll pick it. I'll read it later. Until 2019, when I joined Sphinx. And I was like, hold up. Chevalier, the Black Mozart. And then I went looking for the book and I was like, oh, no, they didn't. So it was like this whole awakening for me. And that was kind of like the impetus for me, like just writing the grant for it. And so we've been working so the goal is to provide equitable paying opportunities for musicians in our South Florida area, but also to perform works by Black composers and to really, you know, give them a voice in our community. You know, so that's what I've been doing lately, working on that, and you know, just performing sometimes with my husband when he'll let me, and who's a very accomplished jazz trombonist. So that's a little bit about me.
Excited. I'm excited. Wow. This has been amazing. Khari, you know, when I was, some nationalities are intimidated when Black folks start doing their own thing. But we, as Ms. Hill said, we've always desired to be entrepreneurs. We've always did our own thing, not always because we wanted to, because we had to. And I remember the conversation that I had with the young men, some of you, and the encouragement to do what was going on when I was little. When I was little in West Palm Beach, we went to the stores in the neighborhood. They were owned by people who look like me. And that was okay because everyone did well. You know, the stores did well. And that's because maybe people could not go to other stores. It wasn't just, you know, it was really no choice, but the area was so vibrant. And I'm thinking, I've said in a couple of public forums that that starting our own entities and our own orchestras and our own organizations like we're doing, and pioneering new things is very important. We don't have to wait to be accepted. We can just do what we're doing and enlarge, collaborate, respect one another, even respect each other more, because often in other societies, we are not as respected. So the bar of how we treat each other and how we collaborate and how we work can revolutionize communities all over this nation. We can be a role model for each other, be a mentor for people like young Kenneth, and just to be go to another level of sufficiency, as been due to as is due. It's our time. I hate to be cliche-ish, but it is time, and we're empowered to do as much as we can to be inclusive, but determined not to be. We're not going to push our way. I believe we just do what we do and bring great minds together, and do big things, small things and big things. And I think over the next 5 years, what's going to happen is amazing. You guys have the youth, and I have the energy of 20 people most days. I make people sick and sleep. My accompanist tells people in the hotel to put her on a different floor than me. She refuses to stay on the same wing because I have so much energy. But we can do it, and I'm so proud of you. And I'm hoping that you will come this way soon. And I'm people are doing different things with their money, and they want to see diversity, inclusiveness, inclusivity. And so, like I said, the research will show orchestras were not always charities. They're charities by now. They are charities now because there are not enough people buying season tickets. There's not enough collaboration. They rather fold than collaborate. And so this is our time. God bless you. Thank you. I know that this is going to be a great concert today. Dr. Joyner, we thank you. Everybody in this chat is a doctor of their field, in my opinion. You have gained the status that deserves you, where you deserve recognition. And we at Javasia, and let me say, Javasia is my middle name. So it's Javasia, Jave, and C. And so I just thought I'd let y'all know, and that's my fault. But that's what it is, Javasia. I've been called so many things in my life. No.
Yeah, we got a lot of variations.
We got a lot of variations, but it's Javasia.
This is not Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, y'all. Come on, we gotta get it right.
Oh, is that funny? I thought I'd just go ahead and let that cat out the bag. I'm having fun. We'll see you later. Take care. Thank you for being with us, and we value you.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Tonight, we'd like you to consider giving $100 towards the efforts of the artist series that we are presenting this season. You may go to JAVACYAArts.com, click the donate button right up top, and invest in the work that we're doing. This season, we are presenting the top Black classical musicians in the country. This is the third concert in our series. Thank you in advance for giving. We appreciate you.